Hello, welcome to Live America Podcast. This is Hatem. Noam's away, still away. I'm not sure he's in Japan, I think. Uh, I don't know what he's doing there, but he's going with the family, so nothing not legit. But Harrison Greenbaum is here and Boris Khaykin is here, two of my favorite comedians and friends. Hello.
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 Harrison, what's going on? Your show is killing it, man.
Thank you. Yeah, my comedy magic show is off Broadway. We're Saturdays at Asylum NYC, and I'm filming a special at the Cellar in September. So that's about to be announced as well. I think this might be the first place where I've said it publicly. So check that out.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
nice. That's great. It's really like Harrison is very talented. It's a great show. You have to go check it out. Especially this time, it's time for shows. I think the fall is the best time for shows in general.
I mean, summer is weird. I think people want to like, especially in New York, people go to the Hamptons and they go out of the city. But yeah, then everybody starts coming back for the fall. The weather is nice, and yeah, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, definitely. Boris, what's going on with you? How's life?
Life's not bad. Yeah, I'm in the Poconos this weekend, doing a show out there, and then your show I think the following week. Things are good. Got the toddler at home. How's life with you, Hatem?
Amazing. Just amazing having you guys here. So let's talk about this. I sent you this article, which is, we all been talking about for a little bit about AI and comedians and, AI in general taking jobs and stuff like that. But I sent you this BBC article about, how AI is helping comedians write jokes and stuff like that. Um, not necessarily write jokes, but, maybe give ideas, because I don't see AI giving great jokes right now, maybe in the future. But giving ideas, rewriting stuff, maybe. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? Boris, let's go with you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a long way from writing any jokes. I feel like it got a little bit like hyped up in general at first. I've used it to like bounce stuff off of. It's pretty good for like hearing your own thoughts, essentially. But beyond that, like, I mean, I'm not an expert on AI, but I think it's still pretty far from like really creative stuff.
But when you have that block, doesn't it give you like some idea, some breathing room, stuff like that?
100%. Same as like talking to a friend that doesn't do comedy or something like that, except dumber than that. But you bounce ideas off of it.
Yeah, yeah. Harrison, what do you think?
I asked AI what I should say if you asked me this question, and it told me to say, I think AI in comedy is like tofu in a burger. It might look the part, but it's just not the same without the juicy, messy humanity.
Oh, it's not bad.
That's
That
what
is
it
not.
told me to say. So I think we got a long way to go.
That is so funny. I think it's also about writing, asking the right question, right? No,
Yeah,
maybe.
there is like I think there's going to be a job of there. I've seen like a an interview with a person who has this job already where their whole job is getting really good at querying Chat GPT. So like figuring out what inputs you need to get the output that you want. So that'll be something. I think the good thing about live performance and stand up is that AI is going to have a lot of trouble replacing that because we can't just wheel a computer out on stage. So I think that part is safe at least for now.
Yeah.
And the thing that scares me a little bit is AI at this point, it's not really generating new stuff. It's just collaging stuff that it's already sort of taken in. So like when you're looking at like mid-journey outputs and stuff, it's taking images and stuff that it knows and trying to mash them together to some degree. And it does that with jokes a little bit too, I think, where I don't know how much it's generating new stuff as much as taking stuff that it already knows and trying to repackage it.
Mm.
So that would be a scary thing. And I think, I, I think the AI, yeah, I think what Boris said is right. Is that like it could be an interesting tool. Like when you're working, when I was working on a joke about Governor Morris, I did a bunch of research and I went on Google, and Google was a tool that I used for that joke, right? Searching and finding out facts and stuff. And so like AI can be a tool probably, and as it gets better, a more effective tool.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I feel like right now, like I know a lot of friends that use it in like cartoonists and like teachers, like everything like that. But they use it the way you use like any other computer app. Like I feel like AI is a marketing term for it to sound like it's some like larger thing. But it's like a useful thing, but it's like a useful normal thing that doesn't need to be thought of in like, I don't know, industrial revolution terms.
But
Not
it's got
yet
to
at
be a
least.
tool. I think that's the distinguishing thing is people are nervous that AI can do the whole thing. where you just say like, write my stand up, and then it just does it.
Yeah.
That would be a scary thing. But if it's just like a tool of like, help me come up with ideas, that feels a little bit better. So at least there's a human component to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also it's, it's helpful in little thing, but my fear, being the only one not comedian here, and I know, like, I book a lot of people, a lot of people say like, "Hey, I'm funny. Look at this. Look at the," and you'll see the videos like, "Oh my God." My fear is this gonna give people some people more confidence. It's like, "Oh yeah, I can write jokes. I can do this," and write a couple of, "Hey AI, what do you think of this?" Amazing. It's, yeah, I don't know. But Harrison, you said a great point. Is like AI is collective of the stuff that they know already. I haven't thought of it this way, but that's the information. That's the input.
That's how it's learning. If it doesn't get new jokes in, it just keeps looking at all the old stuff that's out there and going, okay, what is effective? Because I think the idea is that you're training the AI to deliver outputs that people are saying, yes, I like the output. And so it's just kind of scouring and going like, what is a joke format? And trying to figure that out by reading other jokes. Like, I think it's better at doing monologue jokes than stand-up jokes because there is a little bit more of like a structure and a formula.
You know what I bet you could do that maybe I don't think anyone should, but you probably could, is train an AI rather than on written jokes on audio of live stand-up where it can also like measure the decibels and laughter and like actually get like a social understanding of what works.
The problem is it never can do like what it really would. The best way for the computer to like learn stand up would be if it actually could deliver the joke to an audience, measure response, which is what we're doing, right? We have that algorithm.
And have an anxiety that's triggered by people not enjoying that joke.
And
that's
the computer
key right there.
And the computer have to be booed a few times, maybe throw a couple of things on them.
Yeah.
So they know what's in stake here.
Have one eye on the waitress. There's got to be like real challenges.
Right. How does AI respond when somebody drops a tray or somebody yells something out? I want to see AI get heckled. Does it know how to respond?
Yeah. We need slurs against AI that people can get drunk and yell.
I also think it's interesting because like when I talk about stand up, it's like I always say you write what you want. Like you bring on stage the things that you feel like creatively good about, and then you keep what they want. And AI, I think, is really good at the second part without having any of the first part. Like it knows how to keep what they want. Like it can say like, I'll keep giving you outputs. You say yes or no, and then I can get better at giving you yes, the ones that you thumb up. But it doesn't have that first part, which is like essentially a creative vision.
Yeah,
you can tell it.
That's a great way of putting it.
But the thing is, like, I agree with you, but I think, like, Harrison, you're talking specifically about talented comedians, that there is a lot of comedians that, it's who they are and they want to bring it out there. That's a true comedian. But a lot of people just want to be out there, make them laugh. It doesn't matter if it's them or not, It doesn't matter
You're
if
saying AI can be a hack. It can be a successful hack.
Yeah. Good.
Or maybe really the thing is AI has the same thing in common with a hack, right? That they are not, they just want to get response. They will do whatever it takes to get the audience to laugh, regardless of whether it's been done before or whatever it is. So like an AI is by definition a hack.
Exactly that.
So the AI might put the hacks out of business. This could be a real blessing.
Yeah, I know in school sometimes they will be, they give them a test and then they would check if they used, ChatGPT or AI to do the, the answers. And I think there's a viral video that went on as the professor says, 80% of you use the AI. I use the AI to find out who used the AI. So it's like, you hacking too. It's not fair.
Well, we all just use it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing is like I don't think I was thinking it from the other side, from my perspective. Would an AI can tell if somebody will be successful, if somebody's funny? Can somebody AI measure? Because I'm not talking about like measure in a room when you get laughed at, which obviously is what matters the most.
You're talking about like judging a tape,
and
deciding whether to book them.
Yeah, will be like, can AI tell you like, hey, is this and more specific for me is like, let's say I'm booking a show like in a weird place where like I don't know the political affiliation or whatever. So it's like, can I get this comedian in this zip code with these jokes? What's gonna happen? I wonder if that will be a thing.
I think if you gave it video and audio, I mean the thing about stand-up that's so interesting is that if you just gave AI the written out stand-up of every comic ever and said sort them by who's funniest, I think would have a lot of trouble because the laughter is such a key component to it. So like if you gave it audio and video where it could like actually see the audience reaction, it could tell you who's going to give them the best reaction. But I do wonder if there is like something about like the way a human connects with another human, even through video or on stage, that I wonder. I mean, maybe it's possible for AI to eventually pick up on it. I think we're far away from that.
Yeah, and I think
it's the same.
Go ahead.
It's the same thing where it's going to give you whoever got the best audience response, but it's not going to have that like personal taste to be like, these are the people that like, I know both the context of the audience response, the context of like who they're bringing on stage versus what the audience is expecting, like all those little things where like somebody might be like, this guy's going to blow up next year type of deal, but like did okay in this room or whatever.
You know what's interesting is like, through my experience all this time around comic, when somebody say, like, let's say a table full of comics and someone say a joke, if the joke is really good, nobody laughs. They all go like, oh my God, that's so good. Because it hits different part of the brain. And people don't understand
Why
that.
didn't I write that?
Yeah.
There are different parts. I think there's laughter can hit different. There's like the lizard part of your brain, like the most basic part where like when somebody farts, that's why you laugh is it's like primordial. Or like when somebody slips and falls, that's a different part. Like Three Stooges hits a different part than like the wit part of your like evolved brain. And like the best jokes I think hit both to some degree, but like I think comedians we're also so broken that when something finally comes through that we haven't heard that's surprising to us, we want to savor it. It's like as a magician, like when you see a trick that actually like, it's harder to fool me doing magic. So when you do fool me, I want to savor that moment because it's so much rarer for me to actually be like, I have no idea how you did that.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. No,
I want to just sit in it for a second.
It's interesting.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say it's interesting how, I mean, you know about the magic side a lot more, but it's funny how it does sound the way you describe it. There's this overlap where like certain jokes are funny, but like I could have told you the punchline, but the way they delivered it and their version of it is funny and it's interesting. But then other stuff where it's just like that's so obvious now that they said it, and not in a million years would I have come up with that line. That's like very satisfying.
Yeah, I mean this is my book for magicians, the motivational book. It's called You Are All Terrible. But I talk about comedy in it quite a bit, and one of the things I talk about is like third level comedy. Like there's different levels of surprise. Where like second level is where like any comedian knows exactly where the joke is going, and any savvy person knows where it's going.
Right.
The third level is where even like the comedians in the back of the room were like, I didn't see where that was going, and we're all aiming for that like third level of surprise.
Totally.
I remember I was, somebody when I first was watching David Tell, somebody told me, speaking of like when Harrison was saying different kind of brains, that's exactly what somebody said. It's like Dave is going to make you laugh from a part of the brain you didn't know it existed, And a lot of people don't get, like somebody like, obviously David Attell is genius, and when you hear this joke, like it doesn't get reaction as much as like somebody that can do much better in the stage, obviously Dave kills, but I'm saying some new jokes when he tried. Geraldo is the same thing. Greg Giraldo, new joke, but you'll be like, you have that reaction, oh my God, this is so funny, this is so smart, so it's funny that it's smart, yet AI cannot get that part, the third level. Is that a new book, Harrison?
You Are All Terrible. It came out a year ago, actually. A year ago today, I think. Like pretty much almost a year to the day.
Oh, nice, nice. What do you think of the new there's a couple of new specials that came out, comedy about crowd work? Like it's all just crowd work. What's your thoughts on it?
In the trailer for Matt Rife, does he like say that he's the first one to do it? I feel like he said something weird about like I remember like when Todd Barry came out with his crowd work special, like on Louis C.K.'s website,
right,
years ago, and that was like really interesting. I mean, I think it all goes back to like some of these. Now we have so much data about what people watch, when they watch it, how much they watch it. Like Netflix can basically buy content based on the algorithm. Be like, oh, I know people really love this kind of person doing this kind of thing, whatever it is, and they know how to hit all their demos with just data. The problem is it only lets them it only allows them to take advantage of things that already exist. I think that's sort of like the magic that AI doesn't capture either, is like, what is the next big thing? Like it's like that Andy Kaufman or that guy that breaks through who does something we never expected and then sets up the trend. So I think like there's a huge trend of crowd work, but I'm so curious about like what's the next thing going to be. Somebody knows it. Somebody's doing it right now. We don't know what it is, but in 5 years we're all going to be talking like, oh, it was so obvious that the next thing was this.
And the thing with crowd work is like you said, it's always been there. But now I see a lot of even shows, regular shows that other producers do, and they just started a crowd work where the comics come and talk to the crowd. That's it, you know? And I feel like it's the new way because now the crowd expect to be in the show. So when they go to a regular show, they're gonna kind of ruin it, you know, because they want to be talked to or they're not gonna be happy. Versus stand up, it took years and years of just being like, you have to respect the art. You cannot talk. You don't talk back. You have to watch the show, you know. And now it's encouraged more to watch it, to talk and be participating in the show. And crowd work, I think crowd work is one of the things that most people done before, you know, especially when you go out in the late night, when you go every day, like you guys go on the stage every day. There's some days where you're like, you know what, let me just find something, right?
I think that it's a little bit of a fad right now. Like everything you said, I think is true, but also I feel like people aren't used to seeing it or weren't used to seeing it a couple years ago, and so I think they are still gonna like develop savviness in terms of, like Harrison said, like being at the level where they can predict some of the punchlines, because a lot of crowd work works because it actually is more tested than it seems, and you're obviously working the muscle of doing crowd work, but you know, you have lines and you have things that like kind of come to mind more quickly when you engage certain types of audiences, and I think people are going to get really savvy and hopefully maybe be more interested in like content and not some of the stuff that's a little more like first thought crowd work, because it is satisfying because it has those same elements of like other viral videos. It's real. It feels like you're catching like a real moment, you know. But eventually I feel like it's kind of repetitive if you watch a lot of it.
And like you said, it's rehearsed. Like most of the time, you already
A lot
know
of it.
what you're gonna say. And you're just watching that person, and people are like, "Oh my God, he came up with that." That's it. It's like, no, actually, no. But you know. So speaking of technology in general, are you guys like worried at all of deep fake and all that stuff?
That is kind of scary. I mean, I think the worry is that if it gets really good, then you can't tell what's real or not. Like there's already things in politics where, you know, somebody releases an audio of like, you know, a hidden microphone audio of somebody saying something terrible, and they're like, "That's not me. That's a deep fake," and it becomes a really easy way to dismiss stuff. So it makes me nervous of like when you start to really blur the lines between what's real and what's fake. Like then, yeah, I'm not worried for stand up. Like unless somebody makes a deep fake comedy special of me, you're like,
No, but
okay,
what
that was weird.
Unless you
I
killed, and then it's like, yeah, that
Yeah,
was
no,
funny.
okay.
have. I actually did a speaking of AI, we'll go back to deepfake in a little bit, but speaking of that, I did what I tested it. I did one of the episodes here where I recorded my voice. You know that I get one of those programs where they generate your voice,
Sure.
and I recorded. You read like a letters, a couple of stuff, and they recorded, and I did the intro and the first couple of questions with the AI, and nobody figured out it wasn't me.
I've seen that tech demoed. It's scary. It's
Yeah,
really good.
yeah.
The Turing
And
test.
I got offended a little bit that even AI did a grammatic mistakes when they're doing me. It was not fun, but it's okay. I had to live with it. But yeah, no. Speaking of the deepfake, I saw a couple of people like have this. They get this email that says like, "Hey, we're spying on you. We install something in your computer, and we have videos of you, you know, doing whatever, or especially if you go to some porn sites, and then they will send you one picture to prove it, and say, well, if you don't pay us that much, we're gonna send it to all your contacts, which we already have." And they send you a picture of you, you know, that they got and, you know, kind of deep faked it a little bit. It's
Isn't
fake.
that like a Black Mirror episode or something?
No, it's true.
Yes,
It's actually.
to some degree,
It
yeah.
was,
Oh,
right? I
is it?
think
Oh, I didn't see it like, but yeah. But yeah,
yeah, I
stuff like
mean,
that.
I think most of the time, so that one where they sent a photo, I think if it wasn't Black Mirror, it was something else. But I think what's more common is they do what you're describing without sending any photo because they don't have any photo and they haven't. It's more of a, like, most hacks are social engineering hacks. So it's not that they actually hacked in and got any information like that. It's that they got your email. They're taking a wild guess that you jerk off in front of your computer, and they're bluffing essentially and hoping that you'll send money in crypto because they make a short period. I actually know a woman who wrote, she's a financial like writer for The Cut. She had a super viral thing on The Cut because she got robbed of $50,000 by somebody who gamed her and basically said like they were the feds and they were needed to help her. And it's unbelievable for bad reasons for her in terms of how she appears in it. But it happens to people where they just get gamed. Nobody actually hacked into anything, but they just like mess with your mind and put a timetable on it so you're
Yep.
panicked and stuff. Tell you can't talk to anyone. Everyone's a suspect. Any friend that you communicate, it could potentially put them under like imprisonment because this information can't be known outside of this federal investigation now. So don't text your husband, like crazy shit.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's funny, like with the whole like Nigerian prince thing. I remember reading this great article about, they're like, why be so ridiculous? Like, why be like the feds, and why be so crazy? Why not be like a little bit more subtle? And they're like, if we can get somebody on the hook for something that crazy, we can do anything with them. So I'd rather have that fish than somebody else. But my favorite scam, I'll tell you my favorite scam I've ever heard of, and it happened before any of the AI stuff, is this guy would get a piece of mail that would say, hey, I'm not asking you for anything. I just want to let you know that I'm a psychic, and I believe, the Yankees are going to win tomorrow. And I just want to let you know that. And the Yankees win. And then a week later, you get another thing, and you go, hey, I don't know if you got my last letter, but again, I'm not asking you for anything. I am a psychic, though, and I will tell you that the Yankees will win again, but only by 1 run. And you're like, and then it happens. The Yankees win, and you're like, whoa. And then you get a third letter. I am not asking you for anything. I'm a psychic, though, and I just want to let you know that the Jets are going to actually win this one. I know nobody's saying that, but it's going to happen. And then the fourth letter comes, and he goes, okay, I think I've proven that I'm a psychic. If you give me your money, I can tell you where to invest it, that kind of thing. And the way that worked is they would send, let's say they had 1,000 people, they'd send 500 people, the Yankees will win, and 500 people, the Yankees will lose.
Wow.
And now only 500 people have a correct letter. So then they split that into 250 and 250. They send the next group of letters, and they keep subdividing it down until there's a group of like 50 people that have just gotten 4 or 5 letters in a row predicting the future perfectly. And you can do anything you want with that person at that point because they have 5 letters that predict the future.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's
money
really,
earned.
really good.
Money earned.
Yeah.
Yeah, they I had this scam one time where like way back when I used to have, like when I was really young, I was looking for a roommate, and they send you it was only Craigslist at that time. And they would tell you like, hey, I'm coming from.
You were looking for a roommate.
Yeah.
We had that same couch going on.
Oh yeah, and that couch. No, but
no rent required.
Yeah, they will tell you like, hey, listen, I'm coming, I'm paying this, and they send you a check, for the deposit, and they tell you, and it's like with a little bit extra money, and of course, all about all the scams, so you deposit the check on the bank, and you wait, and you call the bank, and the bank clears it, and it's clear, and the money's there. And then they will tell you, oh, there's a delivery coming, something like that. I bought a bed or something. Oh, actually, can you send them from that 500 something, And you wait for a week at least. But the thing is, like with these checks, it clears and goes in. But then federal, when it goes to the real branch, they know that it's fake, and then they close the account, But I knew it right away. I was like, nobody's gonna give money like this for no reason. Like it's crazy. But
But back to like what we were talking about with like all the comedy trends and stuff, like before crowd work, it was like heckles. Like there was all these heckler videos that got really really viral. I think what's so interesting now is that we are because the best way to get people to watch your stuff is to get them on these social media websites, and they have their own algorithms that support their own corporate goals, whatever they might be. We have started to take our art and try to mold it to fit these platforms in a way that we've never done that before. Like YouTube decided, hey, we want really long videos. And like, I remember when everybody was trying to make short, punchy jokes because they wanted TikTok jokes that were really, really short because TikTok didn't let you upload more than 60 seconds. And now everything is getting long form because every platform wants you on that platform for longer. They want more content from you. And it's so interesting to see that relationship between the social media website says, hey, we want a lot of content. It has to be a quantity thing. We need 5 videos a week from you. And anybody who does that is going to get huge bumps. And so everyone was like, well, what else? We can't give you 5 jokes a week. People aren't writing that kind of material and polishing it in that time. So we're going to have to give you crowd work. And everybody starts doing crowd work to feed this machine. And it's just so interesting to see that the algorithm in that sense, which is its own kind of AI, I guess, is that kind of thing is driving the art and not the other way around. And so like, my hope is that eventually there are artists that still break through by just doing their own thing. But it is fascinating. I mean, Boris, isn't it wild to think like it used to be special to have a special? There'd be like 5 specials a year, and now everybody has a special, and you have to make a special, put it on YouTube, and just hope people see it.
For sure. There's also like it's almost speeding up the process of like, because you do still write stuff, let's say, that a network might want to buy, or you want to like, they're not looking for sketch shows right now. So you need to figure out a narrative arc in this that like works, or like depending on what's popular. It's that, except just like on steroids. You're skipping the network, and it's just the entire audience that's giving data. It is like a weird relationship, but I don't know if it's totally unnatural. It can be unnatural and it can be bad, the same way as like pitching whatever the networks want and like abandoning your creative vision. But it's also like still kind of a connection to the rest of society. It's just so hard because, I mean, you can focus on a tiny niche now on the internet of like people who have like, let's say, an extreme belief, or like, just do comedy for like such a specific small thing that you can go out and bomb around the corner from you, but have 1 million followers that all agree with you and are into your shit on TikTok or whatever too.
And the optimistic look too, the other way, like not to make it sound, I think I made it sound very pessimistic. The other version of it too is like, if you have an idea and the industry doesn't want it or nobody gets it, you can make it, put it out there. And if it does find an audience, then you have data that these companies are like, we need to buy this thing. Like, obviously lots of people like it. I need to put it out on my thing. So you can like find an audience. And I think that's kind of exciting that you can put anything out now. And if it finds an audience, then it wins. Whereas you used to have to prove to some executive, like, I promise this will find an audience. You just have to let me put it out there. And we don't have to have that conversation anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is like, though, is 2 things. One is when you can have millions of of likes and, views and all that, but it doesn't really transition to selling tickets, like we see that so many times where like, hey, if somebody start telling me like the first thing's like, I have millions of followers, I know they don't sell tickets, because it's not going to happen. And then it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. So now you have to put these videos on. So it's not really the creative part of you. You have to kind of give a lot, so it's taken from the art a little bit, don't you think?
It's like marketing more than it is comedy in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, you have to be like, oh, this guy Harrison is so funny, we have to look at these videos. But to understand why he's funny, you have to look at his special. That's how it used to be, or the Tonight Show used to be a big deal. Nobody is like, whatever,
But also like I think we forget also like about time. Like you used to, if you were a stand-up, the only thing you had control over was your stand-up. So you just went out there and you're like, I'm gonna try to be as funny as possible and get up and let as many people know that as like performing, as doing that. And then hopefully somebody will see me and like want to put that in a special or whatever. And so we had, all the time was focused on stand-up. Now you have to run a production team because you're doing your stand-up, then you have to film the stand-up, you have to edit the stand-up, put it in a bunch of different social media forms. The demands on our time don't allow us to focus 100% on stand-up the way I think it used to be, which I mean, we might start to feel that in terms of the stand-up that we're getting.
Totally. And when you're starting out, and for a lot of people, there's also day job, kids, everything else potentially. It's like wild how much longer it might take you. Like if you were to just start stand up today, and I see a lot of people like a year in, and they, they're pushing the online accounts, they're pushing merch, the whatever else it is, and that's all well and good, but like it's going to take you so much longer to accumulate the stand-up hours because there's no way you're putting in the same amount while doing all these other things.
And it's gonna take you a different road of fame. You know, you're gonna be famous online. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
versus you in the club. You know, people are like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see him. You know, that's a different story. You know, I don't know.
And
Uh,
I'm glad. I mean, I'm gonna sound like an old fogey, but like I'm glad. Like I feel like if I started stand up now, all of my stuff would be online. Like all my early stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were able to develop. I was able to develop in a little bit of a vacuum, and figure out what I was doing. I mean, I remember joining YouTube and people were like, you have a YouTube channel?" Like early days, and we really controlled what we put out there. Like you didn't just put everything out there constantly. And there's like young comics where I see their bits and I'm like, that's a first year comic doing a good first year bit.
Right. You don't want
But
this out
like,
there.
yeah, when he's 10 years in, that bit might still be there. Or that bit got 1 million views, and so now he's known for this bit. So it is just fascinating how much more documented their careers are and how much pressure they have. Like you see open micers filming their open mics
yeah.
because they have to get on stage to film these clips, and like that's the best stage time they have access to. And it's like that is kind of wild to me.
But the flip side of that also is like a lot of times you end up, and this is like a positive outlook, is you end up being known for the good thing. And so
Mhm.
some people have like 200 things that are shit that they put out, and then they like really hit it with one bit or one sketch or whatever else, and then like go back, erase all the stuff you're embarrassed of, keep the stuff that's there, and you're ready to build an account.
But you know, you can't erase anything. Once you're online, you're always online. Don't we teach
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, but for your
you can
profile, you know.
private some things.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, but you know, things that I think comedy is different now, and there's a lot of this. Everybody wants to be a comedian. Like it's so funny, like how many people. Like I meet so many people. It's like, oh, I'm doing stand up. I'm doing stand. And I think there's a lot of people also like secretly want to be comedians. Like if they have that one friend that tell me, you know what, you are funny. You should you should do that. You know, then you'll have even more. You know. Uh, it used to be, and this is another thing, it's like it used to be on the stage. You go on the stage, it doesn't matter how big you are. It could be Seinfeld, it could be Chris Rock. They still go to the same stage and earn that every day. So if you go a couple of times to the stage and you get, you know, no laughs, and they be like, oh shit, okay, maybe I should do something else. But now you have other victories. You have, oh, this video did 20,000. Oh, maybe I'm good. You know, you have other things that keeping you in the game, and you think, which is okay, you know, but I'm talking specifically about stand-up comedians, you know, being comedians, not being, you know, comedian slash actor slash everything. One of
Even
the
for
best thing I ever heard was, you know, Colin Quinn in an interview. He was saying, you know, comedy is not the guy that gets the girl. Comedy is the guy that doesn't get the girl. You know, is not the one first in class. It's the last in class. It's not the cool guy. It's not the cool guy. But not everybody wants to be the cool guy while doing, you know, I think it's brilliant because it really, comedians sees it from a different part of their brain, you know, different, they react to things that nobody else reacted. But now the new people like want to be this, and I am so cool.
Yeah, comedy's the opposite of cool. Like the comedy doesn't come from being the cool guy for sure. Like that is weird. There's a lot of hot comics, and you're like, what? How did that happen? How did that happen? Also, you have enough. Let us have this one thing, please.
when they're good though, it's extra infuriating. It's like
It's horrifying.
it's impressive
How
enough
dare
you
they?
even developed a personality being that good looking. And then on top of that, you're funny.
I'm okay with like if you were like if you were fat when you were younger and you developed it then you lost all the
Totally.
weight and you're like, okay, I still have that muscle. I'll give you that. But if you were hot your whole goddamn life, go fuck yourself.
It
How
really
dare you?
it's extra, but it's extra impressive when they're funny because they were hot their whole life, which means people were laughing regardless of whether it was funny or not, just because they wanted them to like them. And they still, through all that like noisy data, managed to like figure out how to actually be funny.
I love that perspective.
Also,
It's more impressive actually in a way.
It is because when you're not hot, if you made a joke and it's not funny, no one's giving you a
Right.
laugh, you know?
yeah, I think a lot of times when you go on a stage, you know, male or female, if you go and if somebody's very good looking, it takes also away there's this article was written by the Time about dressing sexy on the stage, New York Times. I don't know if you read that article. It's pretty good. I think a lot of times it takes away from you, like people like, well, first of all, you're going to get judged right away. Especially if you're good looking at the game and tell like, oh, look at this guy. He thinks, oh, this lady, she thinks she's so good,
I'm still
Right.
gonna keep doing it though.
Yeah. You should. You
Yeah,
should.
my tits are out every
Yeah.
time, every show.
Yeah.
That's a
And
problem.
the other thing is like I know a lot of people, which is that doesn't take away from majority, but I like when I see somebody like who was a lawyer and left it to be a comedian, who like went to Harvard and left it to be a comedian. Like I believe these guys are true comics, because that was their calling. Harrison obviously went to Harvard.
I will agree. Anybody who went to Harvard and became
course
a
you
comedian,
agree.
that's the best.
Of course you agree, but I mean like
Their parents agree. Everyone agrees.
100%. I see no issues with that statement.
Did your parents ever forgive you, Harrison? Did they
You know
forgive
what
you?
was? It's really funny. They've always been very supportive. They're you're very much typical Jewish parents. They're over supportive. And so when I said, hey, give me 2 years. I always talked about like I give myself a contract for 2 years. You get 2 years, do stand up, and at the end of those 2 years, depending on how you're doing, you can re-up the contract with yourself or choose something else. And so every 2 years, I would be like, okay, I feel like I've made progress. Let's keep going. So I was like all in on it. And my parents did a really good job, I found out later, of basically hiding their abject fear that there was no way I was going to survive doing this full time. And it wasn't until like years later, I like got drunk with my dad, and he was just like, thank God this worked out. We were terrified. We didn't think this was going to happen. Thank God this worked.
Do you still do the 2-year thing or no? That's a pretty good
now I think I'm all in at this point.
Yeah.
I do like to reevaluate every year. Actually, I try to just kind of look at where I've been and where I'd like to go. But it's so unpredictable. Like, I couldn't have told you that I was going to end up joining the circus for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Cirque du Soleil wasn't on the
Cirque du
list.
Soleil
Of
is
like,
not just
oh,
a
this
circus.
is the next career step. Is coming out of a stage after an acrobat and doing 40 minutes. That wasn't on the list.
Yeah, but to be the first comedian ever to do a Cirque du Soleil, that's a pretty big accomplishment. I mean, in Vegas, and it was for like a year and a half, 2 years almost. It's like it was a great show. So that give you some confidence. Be like, okay, I'm in the right place. So kind of like Michael Jordan, with Nike, you now like signed a lifetime agreement with yourself.
But you know what's like weird about it is that that show is a 1,200 seat theater. And I did 650 shows. So even if, let's just say 1,000 seats, just to make it even easy to do the math. So that's 650,000 people seeing me do that show in Vegas. One viral video is 1 million people or 2 million people. And so it's just so crazy number-wise that I worked my ass off, 650 shows in a year and a half. And I have viral videos on my TikTok that have been seen by 2.7 million people. Like, it's just the numbers of it are so crazy that I have to focus on the art of it. Otherwise, I would lose my mind.
But also the word "seen" is like very deceiving because a lot of people have views, but it's not really view. Like, first of all, if you look at anybody that have a podcast or have a show on YouTube, or you knows that you can tell the watch time. You can tell when people dropped you after 2 seconds of the show, or after half an hour, or like, and the average, which is crazy. The average is very, very short, for long videos. And even for short videos, it's very short. Some people can drop you after 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So you can get the views still, but it doesn't mean that people turn on for you. I think it's best when with engagement, but also, when people see other stuff of you, So I think when you go and people pay money to see you, that's impressive. That's people actually invested their time and their money to watch something. That's success. Versus, you still listen, having millions of views is obviously a great thing, but I'm just saying in terms of comedy, because how many shows that we have that I had a show a couple of weeks ago, everybody in the lineup have millions of views and everything. We didn't sell any tickets, and not any tickets, but it wasn't sold out. So it would be like, oh shit, So it's not that. It's oh my God. It's two things to me. One is kind of like a Chappelle thing, is like when something big happened, or Jon Stewart too, I cannot wait to see what he's gonna say about this. You know, that is, I think, the ultimate success. Is like, oh, I cannot wait to go and talk to Harrison about this. I cannot wait to say what Boris is going to say in his podcast about this. That's the ultimate, you know. And then after that is people going for you, trusting that no matter where you're going to be funny. But views, yeah, it's great, but you know.
I needed that. I needed that. I needed that pep talk. I like that a lot. I haven't thought of it that way. That's great.
It's I think it's true. It's based on, you know, it used to be like a lot of times when we produce shows, especially international, they tell us show us how many followers this comedian have, how many followers that, like, even you know, if we do show here in New York, you know, with certain arenas, they'll be like, okay, what's the view, what's the engagement, how many, you know, and then you learn that from them. It's like, okay, we don't care about the views, let's break it down, you know, to the seconds, to male versus female, to New York versus, you know, age-wise, everything, because they want to target their own people. So
Boris, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So like we're all fighting for views and fans and stuff. Now that you have a kid, do you fall into the father brain of like none of it matters because if I make my kid laugh once, that's worth 7 Madison Square Gardens? Or are you like, that's bullshit?
They can both be true. It depends if I'm talking to you or if I'm talking to my kid and wife. I don't. It changes it a little bit for sure. I think in terms of a priority overall, but when I'm in that brain, then like it definitely matters, and I got my kid off my mind sometimes for a little bit.
is it your nightmare in general for both of you, having kids, you know, athlete, like having a kid that's not an athletic or not athlete, like having a kid that's
No, I'd prefer my daughter does not go into comedy. I am
no, but
perfectly
I'm
fine
saying
with that.
no, it's not about comedy, but just not funny, no sense of humor at all.
Oh,
Is that your fear?
that would suck if my daughter didn't have a sense of humor, but she's already pretty funny and she's only 2, so I don't know. I think we're good.
I think that'd be really hard because like Boris's kid is being raised around Boris. Like I feel like there's no way that doesn't like soak in a little bit.
Yeah, and go and say some of your jokes at their kindergarten or.
God,
Yeah,
that would I never even thought of that though. Now that's gonna be my nightmare. Is I'm gonna have a kid and he's just gonna be dad jokes right out of the gate,
a corny hack.
just puns all day, and I'm like, no.
No,
Oh man.
but the best thing
Go to
is like
room.
will be like they have problems in school because their jokes are really not funny, and they call you in. It's like, what do you do, sir? It's like, well, funny you mentioned that. I'm a comedian. It's like he gets it from you. You're the problem.
I'm more worried that my kid's gonna get like kicked out of school because he's gonna be in 2nd grade and say cunt. Like that's my fear.
So election year, how is that in general for comedy for you guys? Let's keep it with comedy today. We did a pretty good job just talking about comedy, which I like. What do you think of like election year in for comedy? Because I remember like when there's a lot of stress, when there's a lot of like violence, when there's a lot of shit going on in the world right now, you know, a lot of times people seek to come and see, you know, celebrate or see something fun, just take their mind off. But on the other hand, some comics will have pressure to talk about it, talk about Trump, talk about the election, talk about this, talk about that. What do you think of this time for comedy in general?
I don't mind doing jokes about any of it. I feel like if I were to be somewhat optimistic, I feel like the temperature's still down a little bit on both sides compared to what it's been in like 4 years ago or 8 years ago. For whatever reason, I don't have, it's more like a vibe check, but I just feel like I can make jokes about either liberals or conservatives and about certain things without like, I don't know, there was this era of it like 4 and 8 years ago where it really, if it was a great joke, it's a great joke, but like if it's in the wrong room and it's not quite aligned, like some people would really seem like bothered to like a degree that I don't see as much right now. Like I feel like if people have gotten a little inoculated towards just having their temperature dialed to 11 all the time.
Yeah, just to clear, I had that show. I was producing a show when it happened, when Biden was stepping down, and I heard the crowd coming in saying, "Oh, I cannot wait to see what they're gonna say about that." You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. Is like, do you feel like, oh fuck, I have to do this? You have to acknowledge, and that's a good crowd work, by the way. That's the time you do crowd work. But do you acknowledge that? Do you be like, oh shit, I have to be update with the shit that's happening, or not really?
I don't feel like I have to. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go, you go.
I was just gonna say I don't feel like I have to, but I kind of like specifically it's something like Biden stepping down or like Trump getting shot in the ear. I I like doing jokes. It's almost refreshing when it's something like that because it's a base reality, however you feel about it and whatever side you're on, that I can work from. Whereas like certain events are just it feels like a base reality in Brooklyn, but then you go somewhere else and it's viewed so differently that if you're really trying to like use the joke in different rooms, it's actually kind of hard. Whereas something like that, like Trump getting shot, whatever, it's just easy to make like good, clear jokes that like however you feel about it, you're gonna focus on the joke rather than like your emotional reaction to the event.
Yeah, it's funny that people walked in. Like, I do feel that pressure. Like when something major happens, it's like, oh, what are they gonna say about it? And I'm like, guys, this is not a. I'm not a wizard. This I have to write the joke. I have to try it a couple of times. It's gonna take a few days before I really have that solid take. Like, yeah, you can get that like rough idea, like,
Yeah.
but getting that really polished bit is gonna. Yeah, it takes time to polish things. So there's always that frustration of like, I'm gonna give it a good try, but your expectations better not be that I'm gonna have this like 5 minutes of beautiful material the first time out. But the other thing that's also kind of fun, I used to be really annoyed in a weird way. Like, okay, Donald Trump almost gets shot. And I'm like, God, everybody's gonna have a joke, and like it's gonna be a lot of noise. Everybody's gonna do the same take, and I used to be annoyed about it. And now I really do enjoy the challenge of like, what take can I have on some of these topics that nobody
The
else
rise is above, yeah.
yeah, what's going to be that weird off-kilter avenue to get into it? And so that's been a fun challenge. And like that makes it a lot more, although this cycle has been particularly weird where I don't remember having to rewrite full parts of my set constantly.
Yeah.
Like every Biden bit went out the window when he dropped, and then Kamala comes in, and then Donald Trump is going to get, it's like JD Vance and the couch. Like there's so much stuff. I do think it's interesting though, like you were talking about Jon Stewart. I think it is a millennial thing. I think we're the first generation because we were really raised with like The Daily Show, and now there's so much political content, the late night shows, John Oliver, Jon Stewart, everything on TikTok and YouTube and stuff. I think that's how we get our news. I think we were raised, we had 9/11 happen to us when we were teenagers. We have we had recession, all this terrible shit. And so it's much easier to take the news when it also comes with like sugar. It's like it's like the Mary Poppins version of it. I'd rather have the Daily Show tell me the news and then give me a little sugar with it than watch just like the straight news. Maybe that's why I became a comedian.
That's so funny. I actually remember when comics used to be actually reading newspaper at the cellar. They bring a newspaper with them. No, of course nobody does that anymore, but you know. But imagine that time, and they will get the newspaper and be like, "Oh shit, I have to write a joke about this." But some comics, I think it's like Geraldo. It was a personal challenge for him. Like he liked doing it, you know, and that's one of the reasons he was brilliant, you know. But I do think like it's very refreshing because when something like that happens, stepping down or getting shot or stuff like that, this is what in people's minds. So people will be like, oh, want to talk to us. I personally, when I go in the show, I'll be like, oh, let's see. I bet this guy's going to have something funny about it. I have this guy going to bet something funny about it. So it's, it's interesting. However, when Trump was, like you said, news are so fast now that when Trump was president last time, I remember I could not book, we do this episode weekly. I could not book a guest. Because by the time that guest comes for the topic, Trump have done something else that we need to talk about, So the news moves so fast now that you have to be ready to be whatever, But
yeah, I mean, like my Comedy Magic off-Broadway show, we had a show that was right after Donald Trump almost got assassinated. It was like I saw it on the news, and then I had to go to the theater to set up my magic show. Yeah. And like it was kind of fun to have a magic show that could respond to it.
Yeah,
I will argue that maybe I'm the only magic show in the country that could have a Donald Trump assassination joke the day of.
Yeah,
because I can imagine any other comedy magician attempting to put that into their set. They're like sawing a lady in half, and they're like, you know what also is violent. But it was just like it is really fun to like I think that's one of the therapy. I feel like you guys have given me stuff that is really going to help my brain.
I think that's one of the reasons your show is kind of like unique because it have that stand-up aspect to it, and the stand-up part of it with the magic is so entertaining, so up to date. You can change whatever you want. You can adjust. People not gonna go to Lion King and they be talking about this, So I feel that's one of the beauty of comedy is like when shit happens, people's like, oh shit, let's go to comedy and see what jokes they have about this.
That'd be great
That's
if you
always,
pulled a piece of Trump's ear out of a hat.
oh yeah. It's like, look, I can get the missing ear piece of but yeah, it's funny how you say that we get the news from Jon Stewart because it's too much and we need some sugar on it. That's pretty
And
funny.
he'll say, like, he did all these interviews where he's like, please don't get the news from me.
Yeah.
My goal is comedy. It is not to inform you. You need to get your news from a news source. But in a weird way, it's like, yeah, of course that's where we're at now. It's like, I want that spoonful of sugar to help the terrible medicine sometimes go down.
Yeah. Did you guys see the Elon Musk and Trump interview? Because that was I'm sure there's a lot of materials in that too. It was pretty interesting.
Well, I didn't see it because it was audio only. Like it's the fucking
audio. I mean, not see it.
We're going so backwards. Remember when Clubhouse was hot for like 2 seconds? They're like, it's amazing. It's real-time audio. And then Clubhouse at some point was like, we might actually give you the ability to listen to it later. And I'm like, you mean the podcast? Did you just claim to invent the podcast?
It's so crazy. But
and yet, despite, by the way, it was just audio only. Somehow it still crashed. How in 2024 can an audio only stream not be perfect?
It's so funny. It's I think there was a lot of attacks on it.
That's what Elon Musk claimed afterwards, but I think there was no proof that it was that. It seemed more likely that given the inconsistent nature of those streams, that it is a tech thing on his side.
I listened to a couple minutes of it when you sent the subject, and then I did see one thing that was taken weirdly out of context on it is they were discussing nuclear policy, and at one point in the context of radiation left over and being able to like eat fruits and vegetables there and stuff, Elon Musk mentioned going to Hiroshima and like eating stuff there, and he used the words like it's not that bad, but it was in the context of the land again being usable after it gets affected by radiation. But it was clipped in like a CNN news panel that was basically just like they said Hiroshima was no big deal. And I was like,
no, but when you hear the whole thing, it's fascinating that two billionaires talking about stuff. Some parts were good, some parts, but that specific part you're talking about, I think it was so funny when he said, first of all, Elon Musk, talks in a weird way, kind of like me. But he's like, oh, and look, I ate the food in Hiroshima and nothing happened. Yes, something happened. Look at you. What are you talking about? Nothing happened.
You were bald 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You ate at Hiroshima and you grew your hair back.
Yeah, he's like, nothing. Look how you like act and talk and do all these things. Of course shit happened. What is wrong with you?
I thought it was one of the less crazy conversations that Trump has had lately because, and this is just based on the fact that like the stuff I saw shared that was like Trump's fucking crazy was like nothing compared to other stuff that we've heard. It felt like it was like reaching for it. Whereas like, the past 3 weeks in like the National Association of Black Journalists interviews and all that kind of stuff. The
thing with Trump is like he can start saying crazy stuff once you drive him crazy. But when he's in an environment of somebody admire him, and there's no challenging questions, it's just a conversation. He thrives and he becomes funny and just whatever. But if you have to tell him.
The parts I heard, it felt like Elon was almost like helping him steer away from crazy stuff at certain times and back towards like policy stuff.
I mean, Elon is crazy himself too, but
for sure, but like different crazy. And like it felt like he was trying to like push Trump towards certain policy things if he started to meander and like go from one subject to another and just start ranting basically.
He was also slurring, right? Like he was having trouble saying his S's.
Trump was or Elon was?
Trump.
Oh, I listened to it at 1.5x also, so I don't know.
Oh, you got to slow it down because it really does sound like he's having trouble with his denture. I don't know what's happening, but he did not sound right.
It's actually I listened to it while working out. It was and yes, I do work out, and it's it was very entertaining. My favorite part was when Elon was trying to push for a committee that watch the government spending, and he wants to be in it. And he kept saying it over and over and over to get a job. Like I want to be in it. Like I want to run it. And Trump is like, yeah, sure. And he's like, no, I think it's a great idea. And he kept bringing it back and back and back, But yeah, that's the thing with interviews is like, that Trump is, not losing his mind if he doesn't use the word nasty once, The first
there
thing
was
he
a
would say,
lot.
like, you're a nasty, nasty person to ask that question,
There was a lot though of like calling people losers, and like that part was still there for sure. He like insulted a bunch of people.
I mean, the whole
Yeah.
thing about the Time magazine cover where he's like, she looked like Kamala looked like Melania.
Oh, yeah.
Melania.
All
It's so, I mean, I really do think the Democratic technique of being like, these guys are weird has been very effective. And I find myself using it all the time because it is really true. It's just weird. Why are you talking about your opponent and saying she looks like your wife and then calling her beautiful? It's so
Oh, no.
weird.
I think his point was, you remember when the Time magazine, when OJ Simpson, they made him blacker to make it. You remember that time, the OJ Simpson trial?
Yeah.
Yeah. So his point was that they trying to make Kamala like his point is like they try to give her everything. She's cool, she's beautiful, she's this, that they drill her in the time to make her look prettier than she is she almost looked like his wife. Like his wife is so pretty.
crazy
But
thing
it
to
was
say.
weird, obviously.
I think the reaction from the Trump campaign to the appointment of Kamala Harris as the nominee and like everything the past 3 weeks has been so much more effective in making them not likable than the weird campaign. The weird thing to me is like, I don't know, it's like make Austin weird. Like I feel like weird isn't even a pejorative, but it's being mixed now as a pejorative. And it's I don't know. I know people who get called weird, particularly in comedy, and it's like it's strange using that as a campaign tactic to me. But I guess weird is not an inappropriate way to describe it, but as like a campaign tactic, it's been so much more effective to see him like saying she's not black, like all that crazy stuff is just like they've had a really like almost like they don't know how to react to the fact that Biden dropped out and now they have to campaign against Kamala. And like it's crazy to go after like her race and all this other stuff rather than argue on policy stuff. It's embarrassing.
I mean, I think the reason I like the weird thing is, and I saw this, another commentator had said something along these lines too, of what we used to, like the Democratic attack before was they will destroy America. If you let them win, they will destroy America. And that gives them power. Like they have the power to destroy a country. That actually, in a weird way, empowers them. Weird is disempowering.
Yeah.
When you see somebody's just weird, it doesn't give them any power. It actually lessens them. And so it's the first time the Democrats, I think, have fallen on a strategy that diminishes their opponent as opposed to accidentally kind of propping them up. I mean, like, look how if you elect them, they'll become fascist dictators. There's a strength in that, as horrible as that is. It's giving them a strength that they don't really deserve. So I think that as much as I love, I'm weird. I think we're all weird. And like, I think weird in comedy is a positive. When it comes to the weird that we're talking about in this version, it's the weird of like off-putting, like, who are these people are not normal.
Yeah.
The things they're saying are just weird. And I think the reason people are continuing this attack is that or assessment is that I think it gets in your brain. It's like an earworm and you're like, yeah, that is weird. Why are you saying these things?
But they are weird. I think her
They're
vice
weird.
president is weird.
They
I
are
think
weird. I'm not
JV
gonna say
Pence
Their
they're
is
obsession with like who's going in what bathroom is weird. They're like they're supposed to be this party of purity and like, oh, but they're obsessed with everybody's genitals and they're obsessed.
Here's the thing. Here's my theory. I think the older politicians are sick of the young people saying words that inventing new words and using new words in their language. So now they invented something new, weird. Weird in politics means don't vote for them, But they are all weird. I think Kamala's VP, he's, like all of them, like when you think about, like, it's exactly like you said, when you think about weird, it's like, yeah, you can find weird in anybody and anything. So now you're like, oh shit, yeah. Maybe.
There's like good weird and bad weird. There's like the good weird, which is like, I love your comedy, it's weird. And then there's bad weird of like, don't invite him to your party. He's weird. Like JD Vance is the kind of person you're like, I don't think I want to invite him to my party. He's like bad weird. He's gonna fuck my couch. Like that's that's yeah. And whereas Tim Walz is like, he's a high school football coach. They made him in a lab of like, he's the most dad energy. You're like, this is a guy that you're like, you can picture him helping you when you fall down. Like
Yeah,
that's the energy that we want.
He's
Yeah.
significantly more charismatic than Vance. I'm curious how the debate will go.
Yeah, I mean, he's you know, we'll see. So well, final thing before we go, that was awesome, guys. What isn't it crazy? First of all, I didn't like the fact that when Boris was talking, Harrison will say, go ahead, or when Harrison's talking, Boris will say, go ahead. What if Noam was here? You have to respect his ways. Interrupt each other, yell at each other. But
Shut
yeah.
up, Hatem.
What's it? Yes, there you go. And another point. Yeah, I'm gonna say 7 more things, and then I'm gonna shut up. 7? What? That's the whole podcast. So, what's your prediction for this election? And are you having any? Your show is just got extended as well, Harrison, right? So, final thing is prediction for the election, and you know what you have going on, and people can go see you and watch you and all that.
I like how you put the two things together. You're like, who's going to win the presidential election? Also, tell us about your short dates at the same time.
Because based on that, you can have the audience so they can go.
I think whoever gets the most electoral college votes is going to win.
Nice.
I'm pretty confident, actually. Although, you know what? Considering the way the last election went, maybe not. Maybe there'll be another violent insurrection that will be successful this time. I hope not. But it's anybody's game. I mean, I think that's what's so interesting about it is that, I hope the good guys win. And if you want to help this good guy win, you can follow me at Harrison Comedy on all the social media, harrisongreenbaum.com, and my show is Harrison Greenbaum, What Just Happened at Asylum on Saturdays. You can get tickets at Asylum's website, asylumnyc.com.
Legendary venue. Boris?
That's great. Yeah, at the Boris K on all the things online, and I'll be at in the Poconos for Poconos Underground Comedy this weekend. I'll be at QED next weekend. I'll be at Hatem's show at the Williams Center the weekend of the 31st. Go to my social and you can find all of their dates there.
Well, guys, thank you very much. And this was an experiment. Everything that you watched was the AI. It wasn't Boris. It wasn't Greenbaum. It wasn't me. It was just AI. And we fooled you. Thank you so much. Great to see you guys. Live from America podcast.